Hi, friends. This is Sunil Chandy, Father Chandy, calling at Food for Thought, and I want to thank you again for joining us today. This is our live program on Facebook Live, and then also it's shown at our various platforms through our website, and I want to thank you for being with us. Uh, I also want to, good afternoon, Natalie. Thank you for being with us. I also wanted to kind of just preface today's conversation with the idea that we've been having some internet issues, and so over the last day or so, and so I'm hoping that this show goes well. It's a wonderful program today that we have. We have a wonderful guest. This whole week we've been having some wonderful people join us from our community. And Jan, thank you for being with us again. It's a blessing. And so I'm right now using my iPhone. Can you believe this? iPhone. Dale, thank you, and I hope Don is doing well. You both are in the thoughts and prayers. Um, I'm using the iPhone, which is an amazing situation. I mean, this I don't, you know, 5 years ago I didn't imagine that this would be a part of my ministry, and it is, and so we're here together because of that. Um, and so, in advance, I wanted to apologize if there's a cutout, if there's an interruption. I'm hoping that you might that on my end, it might actually come from my end because we're trying to figure out the infrastructure on my end. But if there is some kind of interruption, uh, Ben, who is our producer of the show, Ben Barber is a wonderful interviewer. He does a show, many different shows, and he might come in and just ask our guest the questions that until I come back, and hopefully I'll come back quickly rather than later. But thank you for your forbearance and your patience with us as we deal with all of this technology. One of the, in terms of thoughts for today, I was I was drawn to Psalm 50, and the reason why I was drawn to that is because in my morning prayer, that's what was assigned for the lectionary today, and um, and Psalm 50 is an amazing psalm, and I think uh, if, when you have time to go back and read it is a very good uh, thing to do. It's a very good thing to do. Um, the beginning of the psalm is it talks about basically what God wants and what God doesn't want, and and it says in the psalm so clearly that um, I don't require the sacrifices that you're giving me, the type of sacrifices. I don't want the sacrifice of bulls and the blood of goats and all of that stuff. We don't do that anyway, but I don't really require any of that, he says, you know. And I don't require just your words, but rather, he says by the end of the psalm, there are two things I really want from you. I want a sacrifice of thanksgiving, and I have to think about that uh, more. But I have a sense that that means to have a grateful heart, to have a grateful heart in the midst of this life that we have. Whatever this life is. I mean, there might be very many challenges that we're facing as an individual or as a community, but just don't focus on what you think I might want. But what I really want is for you to be aware of the gifts that you do have. Not just the challenges, but the gifts that you've been given. To, to be thankful for that, to be grateful. Because it is through those gifts that you're going to, in my mind, it is through those gifts that you're going to meet the challenges of the day. You know. So that's one thing he says. A sacrifice of thanksgiving. By the end of the psalm he says that. And then this the second thing is to keep my way. Keep my law. And I started to think about what does that mean? Keep the law. Does God want to be is a rule maker and then I have to follow the rules? Well, I was thinking the laws that God really requires of us. I mean, it's the Ten Commandments, right? And then Jesus Christ gives us a summary of those Ten Commandments, which is love God with all your heart and love your neighbor as yourself. So keep the law. What is the law? Basically, to love, to do good. To love, to do good. So, in essence, what I think God is saying in that psalm, the psalmist says it so well. I don't require all of these extraneous things sometimes. I don't require you to say these flowery words sometimes. I don't require all of that. What I really want you to do is have a grateful heart. And a grateful heart is a humble heart, I think. And then to follow the law, to do good, to love. These are the two things. And we will be blessed. God says. Sometimes it's hard for me to be reminded of that. I'm the type of person who likes to do many different things, and I'm the type of person who thinks if you push this button, you'll get this result. And this is what I need to do. And sometimes if I do go to church on Sunday, say these prayers, I'll get this result. And sometimes and then in the midst of it, my expectations are sometimes I don't do it well. Sometimes I do, and then I'm not grateful. I don't feel grateful. I don't concentrate on those things, that the gifts that God has given me. This psalm reminds me to be grateful. The second thing is also, all I have to do is do good, to love. That's a lot, especially when you're dealing with difficult situations where to show love is very hard, but that's the key, I think. So, in the midst of this crisis, I hope that these two thoughts will uphold you today. I ask you to read Psalm 50. I think it's a beautiful psalm. I think I might actually try to memorize that one. There's certain psalms that are pivotal in my life or important in my life, and that's Psalm 23, Psalm 46, 121, 91. I try to memorize those things. I try to internalize them so that they could be a part of my life and experience every day and in part of my memory. I think this psalm is one of those that I am going to be memorizing very quickly as well. Today, we have a wonderful guest with us. Again, as I mentioned, at the beginning of this week, we've had some very good guests come and participate in the show with us. And of course, I've been grateful because of all the guests that we've had at Food for Thought. They've been very insightful and have always imparted insight not only to our community but to me personally. And it's just, I'm grateful for that. But today we have Wayne Eberly. Wayne is, if you don't know Wayne already, he is a wonderful man, and you'll enjoy his presence just as he comes across the screen to you. But Wayne has been a pastor in our community since I think March 2015. I thought he was here a little bit longer than that, but March 2015, he's the pastor of Dunn's Corner Presbyterian Church. Before coming here, he was a pastor at a Presbyterian church in many different churches in California, and then prior to that, he served for 20 years in Houston, Texas, and being a pastor there. He's married to a lovely lady, Julie. They've been married together for 38 years. Julie is just a joyful, outrageously joyful person, and I enjoy my wife and I enjoy her so immensely. And both of them have 4 children and 1 grandchild named Clara. And so, Ben, if you wouldn't mind, bring Wayne with us.
Hello.
Hi, Wayne. How are you?
Good to see you, Father. Glad to be with you.
I am so glad to be with you. It's always a joy. I love seeing your face. It's beautiful. Makes me want to smile.
Well, I've got a little office and the sun's shining right in. It's a blue sky day, so it's a good day.
It's a beautiful day, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, we've been friends ever since you've come here. I mean, every time we meet together in our colleague group, I just feel like I just want to hug you. And you, I remember the first time I think we finished our conversation, we hugged each
Yeah.
other. It was
Yeah.
great.
That's one of the real losses with this isolation, isn't it? That you just can't do that right now.
You just can't do that right now, and that's that's part of what we have to adjust our behavior with. And so that's one of the things that one of the things that we did to adjust our life was to put this show on together, and it's a way to connect to our parishioners and to the larger community, and to give a positive message of hope as we deal with this larger crisis of the COVID-19 crisis. And what I'm finding though is that these insights that I'm getting, that we're getting from all of these people and from this show, is that it helps us not only in this particular crisis, because the crisis will end, but
Yeah.
but it helps us through the challenges of life. So how have you adjusted yourself to meet the challenges of the day?
It really caught us all off guard. I was thinking, we talked about the hugging. When I first heard the social distancing, I thought, well, if somebody's contagious, but now to realize that we really have to practice that. And so I look back on my own attitude and realize it took me a while to realize how serious this all is. And I think that will be important as we go forward, that at some point we'll be able to worship again, but we're going to have to be careful. The masks, the distancing, the size of 50 or things like that. So it's a good reminder that in areas where there's health concerns, to listen to the experts and to follow that, because we certainly don't want to spread something. We want to be a part of the healing. So it's been humbling in that way. It's also humbling when you didn't grow up in a technological world.
Oh,
To go from 0 to 100 in about 2 days has just been overwhelming. So we do our best. We've had a young man who's come in and helped film our services, and he produces them, and we don't broadcast live, but we're able to show our worship service, and that's been really nice. We're so thankful for him. His name is Kyle, and we're just blessed that he stepped up and helped us. We send out a daily devotional. It goes out by email. It gets put on our website. I post it on Facebook. And the daily is important because sometimes it's not living day to day. It's hour by hour. When you get a slump, or you get some of the bad news that we're being extended in some of our isolation, it can take the wind out of your sails. So we've tried to do some daily things. We started an old-fashioned phone tree just because not everybody gets email. And so we about once every 3 weeks or so, some of our elders and deacons call and check in with people on phone. So we're doing as much as we can to stay in touch. And then I've done something that's it's in some ways meant to be silly, but I set up a small table in our parking lot on Sunday mornings when we'd normally have church, because periodically someone won't have the word and they'll show up for church, and I'm sitting there. I'll hand them a printed bulletin and we say hi, and often there's a little snack or something like that. It's mostly to be playful and remind people that we're still there. But we've got a few people that didn't know that we were not worshiping, and it gave us a chance to be there in person and send them off with a prayer and a blessing. So those are some of the things.
oh, it's beautiful. I mean, and that's exactly. I mean, we do the same thing, and we're all doing these wonderful things. I think in the community to help encourage our community. Um, I am particularly. I love the fact that you're right. I mean, technology. You know, I didn't. I have not imagined that I would be doing any of this in seminary. And luckily, I think what the challenge caused me to do, this challenge caused me to do, was to kind of search out for people who have the talent. And in a normal circumstance, they wouldn't be using those talents. But now we're finding people with talent to help us do ministry. Um, you know, and so that's really good. And I also find that, you know, even with this, our online presence and what we do on Facebook and all the services that we offer, uh, there was almost a voice that wasn't heard before. The person that who couldn't make it to church, uh, who didn't really have an access to the church other than the pastoral call and then um, our visitations to them, but they're not here on the weekly basis. And so now I'm finding that we are connecting to them, and we're all. I mean, their plight has now become our plight, and now we're putting our resources. And I don't think our church will be ever the same. We'll always have on it.
I one of the things, if we get to the point where 50 people can gather, that's still not going to service, what we were able to do in the past. We're going to have to do smaller groups, and I've often wish I had been more proactive. Some people work on a Sunday morning, and if that's the only service we offer, we've right there excluded them. And so maybe this will be a chance to say, let's have a lot more services. They don't necessarily need to be an hour or production, but lots of opportunities throughout the day and the night for people to come and be together. And I know this is virtual, a lot of what we're doing, but it's made me realize we need to be much more accessible. We've got a thing that we'd be glad to share with anyone. We have an outdoor chapel on the church grounds. It's called the Chapel in the Pines. We meet there in the summertime. What a great resource as we enter into some warmer weather. Afternoons, morning services. It's a real nice setting. It seats about 60 or 70 people, but we'd love for others to share in that little place to gather to worship. And we're going to use it a lot over the summer.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. That's beautiful. One of the challenges that we have, and just to mention it on our show, is just, our choir is about 35 people, and I'll tell you that that in itself is a challenge, because I mean, if we have 50, we're required 50 people and under to be at a service. I'm talking with George Kent and our organist and choir director. How do we do music? Currently we're having, this whole situation, Facebook, faith allows us to kind of have a soloist and music, and we're using Andrew Howell, who's been very helpful.
Yes.
Just a wonderful man, and he's been playing with us because he's got that. He's young. We're really scared about having people over 60 in our church, and the bishop has kind of required us not to do that at this moment. But going forward, thinking about how to kind of adjust our ministry, the way we worship now, to meet the particular challenge is tough. It's tough. It means that we're going to have to change a bit too.
Yeah, and it's nice to have colleagues to bounce ideas off. I think I heard either coming up or recently that Ruth, the chair of our clergy group, was with you, and that clergy group is important, and she's done such a good job gathering us together to share ideas, to be in touch, and I think going forward, this might be another one of those things that draws the religious community together, because I'm not thinking of everything, and I love hearing somebody else's ideas.
Yeah, and on top of that, part of it is that when we do these things, when we're trying to meet the challenge of the day, there's enormous pressure on elite clergy leadership, because we're trying to figure out what's working best in the moment, and for the long-term adaptability of our church and our church community. And not a lot of people may be happy with that,
I try to be a very positive person, but I think it's also important to let people be frustrated, because this is a frustrating time. It's not normal. In our family, we missed the first birthday of our daughter. We meant to go to Houston. That didn't work out. And that's not to say more or less, but others have been through even more difficult things. We had a church member pass away. We couldn't gather like we normally do. And positive attitude or not, we need to recognize those are real losses, and people need room to grieve and be all those stages, the anger and whatnot. It's a hard time.
It's a hard time. It's a hard time. And I thank you for reminding me of that too. That's why I love having you as a colleague and friend.
Sunil, I when we were in Houston, it's when Hurricane Katrina hit New Orleans, and we had well over 100,000 refugees leave New Orleans and come to Houston. And at first, every church was trying to do what they could do, and we realized we needed to work together. And I'm just thinking it'll be an important time for us. The crisis won't end when the isolation's lifted. There's going to be a lot of people out of work, a lot of people needing assistance that's not what they're used to. And I think there'll be some real ways for the church community, the religious community, to work together with meals, with all the needs. And we've been doing a lot now, but I don't think it's going to lessen in the days ahead. I think it's going to expand because people are going to be in situations they've never been in before.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. I mean, we have a wonderful staff, and they're working really hard, and we're trying to, and our volunteer community has been really connecting to each other. But there's the greater community, and the more that we work together as religious communities, I mean, as faith communities, to help the greater good. I think that's one of those things that I think, I was just giving that thought of the day, which was the two things that we saw, Thanksgiving, a sacrifice of Thanksgiving, and then doing good. I know that I'm grateful for people like you and the Dunn's Corner Church, and all the church communities, and then I'm also, we could do good together.
Yeah,
we could do good together to create a better community, to meet the needs of our community, and I appreciate for you to say that.
I also Dunn's Corners is really a community that before the city sort of grew our way, the fire department, the church, we were all bound together. And our fire department, the Dunn's Corners Fire Department, they're just a great group of folks. They were given some extra Easter things from Walmart that it didn't sell, and so the fire department's been delivering baskets to some of the friends that could benefit from that. And one of our church members sent a picture receiving a basket from the fire department, and the smiles on everyone's faces. So it's the religious community, it's the fire department, the police. It's going to be a chance to work together. It's going to be hard, but it's going to be good.
Yeah, it is going to be good. It is going to be good. God is present in this challenge and always.
Amen.
Wayne, thank you again.
You're welcome, Sunil. Love you. Love your church. Blessings to all.
Thank you. Same back to you. And tell Julie I said hello. It's a wonderful. I can't wait for all of us to get together again.
I'm going to tell her your great introduction. Those were kind words you shared.
Thank you, Dwayne. God bless you. Folks, another great person in our community, another great pastor, and a great community. The Dunn's Corner Church community, Presbyterian Community Church community church is a great church, and it's done wonderful work in our community. It's been a light, and I thank God for their life. And I thank you for watching us and being with us. And so we'll continue to do Food for Thought. And next week we're going to have one of the things that we are going to have is Sharon Youngkin again. And we've been asking if you have any questions or concerns that you might want to see her help us figure out. She's a trained therapist, and she'll be able to if you send us some questions, some of the challenges that you're facing in this particular moment, then she can deal specifically with those questions on the Monday session. Where one of the things that I've discerned is that it'd be nice to have her continuing to have a conversation with her, and I asked her if she would join us bi-weekly, every 2 weeks, to give us some insight and to deal with this particular challenge. And again, this challenge will end. COVID-19 will be finished one day, but the lessons we learn from it is going to be lasting, and it will help us in the next challenge, because life is filled with challenges, isn't it? And it's really about how we grow through those challenges, how we meet those challenges, and how we spread the light of God through those challenges. That says something about us, our faith, and about what we see as the kingdom of God yet to come. So before we end, let us end with the prayer that we say together every day. The Lord be with you. Let us pray. Jesus Christ, you traveled through towns and villages, curing every disease and illness. At your command, the sick were made well. Come to our aid now in the midst of the global spread of the coronavirus. Heal those who are sick with the virus. May they regain their strength and health through quality medical care. Heal us from our fear, which prevents nations from working together and neighbors from helping one another. Be present with those in authority who are making hard decisions. Support the medical professionals, emergency responders, teachers, and students. Support our chaplains and pastors and our caregivers. We ask this in your name, Jesus. Amen. Join with me in the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not in temptation, but deliver us from evil. Thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Before we close, I did want to make one other announcement. Tomorrow, today we taped shoe shows. So we did a session with Wayne Eberly from the Presbyterian Church, and tomorrow we have Mark Pereski. And Mark, we taped him, and he will be presented tomorrow. Mark is the chaplain at Westerly Hospital. Please tune in. It's a wonderful conversation. He's an insightful man, and I hope that you will join us for that. Also, if you like what you hear, if you found a positive message or an insight in any one of our programs, please share it. Share it with the world. Share it over 20 times. Share it to your friends so that they can hear a positive message of hope. Also, press heart so that we know that you really do appreciate this program, and comment as well. And we thank Jean for joining us, Dale for joining us. Thank you all. Natalie, thank you. Amen to you all. And don't forget to spread the light of God in the world for what leads us right now. Thank you, friends.